Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's your big bro, Nate. I want to say thank you to everybody returning and for all the support. And if this is your first time, this is a great place to talk about what it is to become a man, to become a better person. I have a lot of women watching this channel as well, so if you are a woman, I do want to say welcome. There's a lot to learn here. Today's topic, we're going to jump right in though, and that's going to be on the gym, all right? And how it's not going to save you. In my experience with working out pretty consistently for over a decade now. Now I've had some dips, I've had some things happen, but I want to let you guys know something. First, I want to preface this by saying that I think the gym is a great place to be. All right, I think more people, if you're not going, you need to be doing some sort of activity, right? And I'm a big believer in finding what works for you, because everybody, right? It's funny how we use that word, everybody. Everybody is different, right? So not everybody is going to be gifted to bodybuild, to power lift, to do Olympic sports, right? To do swimming. It's just a fact. You can also say some people are just not born to be a world record, Olympian sprinter. It's just not going to happen. What I can tell you though, is you're going to go far in what you enjoy. And there was a time in my life where I really didn't care what I did, as long as it just made me bigger. There was a point in my life where I wanted to be as big as possible. When I was about 16 years old, I got into the whole bodybuilding scene. I was skinny, right? I was like 6'2", 160, 165 pounds. I was a string bean, right? And I was really into calisthenics at the time. And in many ways, I think calisthenics are very important. I think everybody, if you're able, right, you need to be doing calisthenics, moving your body around, things like that. When I was a little bit older, about 17, 18, I started to watch different bodybuilding channels on YouTube, different fitness channels on YouTube. There was a bunch of big fitness channels back in the day, right? If you've ever heard of Elliot Hulse, he's a great one. He's kind of moved away from the fitness world and he's more into holistic, more of a spiritual guidance and support now. His videos are great if you're trying to understand wisdom, especially in this modern day. I believe he's really gifted by God to be talking about these things. But back in the day, I watched a lot of different YouTube channels. Maybe you guys are familiar, right? You had the Hodge twins, you had the Six Pack Shortcuts, right? You had Scott Herman Fitness, you had, goodness guys, there were so many YouTube channels out there. And then once I got social media, I started following different people on there. And I was all about being the best that I could be, right? I wanted to push myself, I wanted to grind. And in many ways it helped, right? Because I started working out when I was about 14, 15, I couldn't do a single push-up and it really bothered me, right? I went through a breakup, right? 14 years old, went through a breakup and it kind of changed something in me. And around 14, 15, I just decided that I wanted to be better. I was tired of being the same weak me, right? And so I started to work out. I started to do push-ups. I found a book on calisthenics called Convict Conditioning. It's a great book. If you've never really worked out, you've never really done calisthenics, you're not really sure where to start, I would recommend that book. It's a great book. I don't get paid to support this or anything. I'm just telling you that's where I started. I think there's two other books. There's Convict Conditioning 2 and 3 as well. The reason I'm saying all this, guys, is to give you a backstory, right? Because everybody's got their backstory, right? When it comes to fitness, some people were born into it. Some people, something changed in their life and they started to work out. And you see a lot of people these days trying to fight demons, right? Maybe you're one of these people. Maybe you want to start in the gym. Maybe you're kind of afraid to, right? And this video is going to kind of show you some key things to keep in mind when it comes to the gym, because physical fitness is super important, right? It's very important. You need to keep your body active. It's good to be strong. There's multiple Bible verses on being a strong man. Even a woman, right? In Proverbs 31, it says that she makes her arms strong. She girds herself with strength. She dresses with strength. Obviously that means, modesty and respect, things like that. But it also talks about making her arms strong, right? So there's that element of It's good to be a strong person. You don't want to just be weak. There's a lot of people who say, oh, these days you don't really need to be strong. You don't really need to work out. You just need to make money. You just need to be a productive member of society. But guys, being strong is good for you. It's good for your body. It's good for your mind. It's good for others, right? Not just for yourself, but being able to take care of others, and also being able to take care of yourself, right? Having a level of strength so you're not always relying on people. Great example. When I was moving out, shortly before I joined the Army this last time, I had to move out by myself. And the Lord gave me strength, right? He gave me a lot of strength that I didn't think I had, but He gave me strength. Now, working out for the past 10 years, obviously that contributed, but the Lord gives you strength even when you don't have the strength that you think that you are going to need, right? So it's good to be strong. It's good to be ready. And I'm saying all this to tell you guys that a lot of you guys watching this video are going probably at this point like, okay, like great, that's your backstory, but like what happened? Why are you making this video? And guys, the reason I'm making this video is because there was a time in my life where I got lost in working out, right? You see a lot of fitness motivation on, social media, things like that. And it's great, right? Like sometimes it's great to see that little bit of motivation, right? Like, oh, wow, that person came from this and they're this, wow, they really push themselves. What I want to warn you, right? Just kind of open your eyes, open your ears to these things is be careful that you don't make it an idol. Myself, for instance, I got lost in working out. Last year, around this time, I started to look for a bodybuilding coach, right? I wanted to be a bodybuilder, not steroids, not anything like that. I just wanted to enter a natural physique competition. Found a coach, right? It's funny how God works. This is an interesting story. Found a coach, right? And this coach opened my eyes to fitness, right? He was a professional bodybuilder at one time, and he was actually the denomination that I grew up in. He was Reformed Baptist, and so we had a lot of spiritual talks, and it's interesting because I was with this coach for a good probably 2 or 3 months, right? I was all in. I was like, all right, you give me the workout, I'm in. You give me the diet plan, I'm in. Obviously, paying him for it. And we had a lot of spiritual talks because we would work out in person, random, phone calls. It would start out about working out and fitness, and it would turn into spiritual stuff. He's actually studying. He's in seminary to become a pastor. And even though I was working out and I loved what I was doing, I found out for me, especially at that time in my life, that it wasn't meant to be, right? I still want to do it one day, but it wasn't meant for me at that time. Reason being, I was doing this for a while, having to eat more every day on top of working, on top of all these other things, and I was very unbalanced, right? My whole life became about working out. And I think this is something that a lot of people, especially believers, need to keep in mind, right? When you're overexerting yourself. I got to a point, guys, where I was like, and I worked out, I've worked out a lot, right? I've experimented with a lot of different workout schedules. I've watched countless videos, done countless research on nutrition and just reading through what works for people, anecdotal, scientific, all these things, right? And I found out that I have limits, right? Now, I'm not saying that because it's like, oh my gosh, like I have limits. I'm saying that because I thought that my world revolved around fitness. I thought I was meant to do this, right? And I found out, especially at that time, that I wasn't. I got burnt out. I was tired every single day, right? It was like no matter how much I slept, no matter how much I recovered, I just couldn't keep up with this schedule. And I let my coach know. I was like, hey, I love this program. I'm getting bigger, like I'm seeing results, but I'm burnt out. Like I feel tired, right? Like it was deeper than just surface level exhaustion. Like, I know myself. It was, central nervous system breakdown. It was just complete, like, I am tired. Like, I don't know what's going on. And we were talking, right? When he would coach me at the gym, we were talking. He was saying a lot of things about how he was, a bodybuilder. And the funny thing was, after all these talks, long story short, essentially he almost talked me out of bodybuilding, because we talked about a lot of spiritual things and how at the end of the day, bodybuilding, for instance, is a very selfish sport. It requires a lot of time, requires a lot of money. You're just eating food to get bigger. That's it, right? You're wasting, I don't want to say waste, but in a lot of ways you are. You sacrifice a lot of your social time, you sacrifice a lot of your life, right, for this sport. And we were talking about the more meaningful things in life, how there is more to life, obviously, than working out. And if you look at the scriptures, Paul talks about how even though bodily exercise is of some profit, there is some value there, right? Don't ignore it. Spiritual things are a lot more important. And so after that, after I was like, okay, you know what, like, this has been great, I just don't see this being for me right now, I took a step back. I stopped the coaching. I stopped the professional, going after the professional bodybuilding. And I took a step back and I really analyzed my life. I'm gonna be real with you guys, right? If you guys have watched my other videos, I'm real with you. I like to be upfront because I want you guys to know that I'm human. You're not alone, right? A lot of people think that they're the only ones going through something or struggling with something, and you're not, right? And I took a step back and I realized there were so many other facets of my life that were imbalanced, right? And I was putting all my effort, all my time, all of my energy into getting bigger muscles, right? And it's really silly when you think about it. It's very vain, right? And I understand there's some people watching this video who are going to go, well, Nate, you could, do this for the glory of God. You could, be a bodybuilder for God's glory. And that's correct. I made that argument to my coach as well. The issue is it's very difficult, right? It's not impossible, but it is very difficult because, like I said, it's all about your image. It's all about you. It's all about how much I can eat, how much time I can spend cooking and measuring things out and improving myself, right? Spending an hour and a half, 2 hours in the gym almost every single day, right? Spending time on recovery, right? Making sure that you're getting a lot of sleep, making sure that you're eating, making sure you're buying a bunch of groceries, right? Your grocery bill is going to double. Your time, obviously, all this takes time. You're going to lose time when it comes to socializing, hanging out with people, not just hanging out, but being in fellowship, being around people, helping people. And I'm saying all this too because, guys, at the end of the day, you got to realize that if you're obsessed with working out, it's not going to cure you. Like I said, there were so many imbalances in my life. I thought that I could exercise my own demons, exercise, right? It's kind of fun. The English language is very funny in many ways. A lot of things sound the same, and when you look at it, it's funny how a lot of people think that they can cure themselves, right? And there's a lot of people who might be watching this going, well, you don't understand, Nate. Like, working out got me off of drugs, working out got me into a healthier lifestyle, and that's great. Like, keep doing what you're doing, but don't let it become everything, because you will have an imbalance in your life. And I think what men need to realize, the solution here at the end of the day is not to just work out, not to grind yourself into the ground, not to work out 2 hours a day trying to get bigger, trying to get a better physique. That's not going to make you happy, right? At some of my biggest and strongest points in life, I was the most miserable, right? I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh wow, cool. But in my head, in my heart, in my soul, it was all out of whack, right? Finances out of whack, right? I had other things I needed to deal with. There were other things in my life that were much more important that I had to deal with. And I think men need to realize that if we look at our lives we have the kingdom of heaven in our hearts, right? Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is among you. It's in you, right? What he was talking about, he talked in parables, and a lot of what Jesus said has multiple meanings. And the kingdom of heaven is within our hearts. And so we need to look at our lives like we're building a kingdom. Everybody wants to sit on the throne. There's a time and a place for that, right? There's a time to sit back and relax. There's a time to do what you want, right? There's a time to kind of, relax. There's also a time you need to be very aware of everything running in your kingdom. If you neglect your spiritual life, if you neglect your emotional life, your mental life, if you neglect these things, guys, it's not going to get better. You're not going to be able to outrun, to outlift your problems, your issues, right? The things that you need to deal with. So the biggest takeaway from this is to be balanced. Don't always drive yourself into the ground. If you feel truly called to do something, like I still feel called to one day, right? To one day enter a bodybuilding competition, but that time is not now. And I have a much better understanding of what that looks like and how I want to approach it, better ways to go about it when that time comes. It's still something that's within my being, that's within my soul. But going after it, sometimes there's these things that God places in our heart. And we go, okay, that's in my heart, that's what I want to do, that's what I want to achieve. And we go after these things. We go after these things with our might, with our strength. We go after these things with our mindset, right? And we shouldn't do that. We should always follow what God wants for us in his timing. Doesn't mean you should just stop working out or just, be unhealthy. If you feel called right now to train up and, run a marathon, then that's your calling. But be aware that sometimes along the way, God will call you out of things. He'll show you things. He'll show you things to make you realize, wait a minute, this isn't going to save me, right? This isn't going to truly make me better, at least for right now. So I encourage you, look at your kingdom, look at everything that's in operation, look at everything that's going on within you. Be still, be quiet, get to a place with no distractions, shut your phone off, shut your TV off, shut your electronics off. Sit in your room, right? Journal if you want, right? I'm not saying just do things to do it. I'm saying get to a point where you're just thinking your own thoughts and you're praying and you're meditating on what God wants for you. And you're gonna find out that it's not always gonna be what you want right then and there. The things that are within your heart, maybe they're not meant to be right now, right? There's a lot of people who might be watching this video. This could apply to other things in your life, finances, right? You wanna have a house on some land, you wanna have a wife and kids. That's great. Doesn't mean you should date and marry the first girl that gives you attention, the first girl that's nice to you, the first girl that you go, oh wow, like she's pretty, like we're compatible, she gets me, we make each other laugh. You have to screen out all of these things in your life. You have to test the spirits, guys. You have to be aware of what's going on because it's a battle. There's gonna be a lot of distractions. There's gonna be a lot of things that wanna throw you off. If I was to commit to bodybuilding at that time in my life fully, I would have ended up a train wreck, right? Because there was other things in my life that I needed to balance. I needed to figure out. So don't think that something like working out is gonna save you. It's one piece of the puzzle, right? Being strong, disciplining yourself physically, being in good shape, taking care of yourself, it's one piece of the puzzle. Make sure you're working on your mind, your heart, your soul. Make sure that you're also reading the Word of God, that you're meditating on His will for you, that you're taking it one day at a time. Stop worrying about tomorrow. Stop worrying about, oh my gosh, I gotta get to the top. I gotta be the best right now. I gotta grind myself into a fine powder, guys. That's the way of the world. The world tells you break yourself down. God says be still, right? Don't be lazy. right? Two things can be true at the same time. Don't be lazy, don't be a sloth. But don't become a workaholic. Don't become someone who just sacrifices everything for the sake of some vain worldly pursuit, especially when you have so many other things in your life that need to be taken care of first. Everything needs to be balanced. As a man, you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself in all ways, because like I said, if you focus on one thing, everything else is going to be out of whack. Everything else is going to be uncalibrated, and it's going to affect your whole life. It's going to affect everything. So do everything in moderation, guys. And that's what I wanted to explain to you. Don't get caught up in the hustle culture. Don't get caught up in the, trying to just be better, be better. It's not going to fulfill you, right? Resting in God, allowing Him to guide you, having faith that where He wants you is enough, right? You're enough. If you're trying to improve yourself, it's going to take one day at a time. You're going to have to do this one day at a time. It's going to be a journey, right? Some people say, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes, guys, it's going to be 2 steps forward, 10 steps back. Sometimes you're going to roll all the way back down the mountain. But it's a race. And the crown goes to those who endure till the very end. So don't quit. Keep going. Pace yourself. Be aware of everything that's going on. Seek the wisdom of God. Seek first the kingdom of righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Guys, let me know if you have any experiences, if you have anything that you want to talk about below. And I'll see y'all hopefully in the next one.